Welcome to Caveman's Conspiracies. Today, we're gonna debate whether dinosaurs are real or not! Alright, enough with the BS. How was that open? That was pretty sick, right?
That was good.
That was good. I like that music. Yeah. That's my favorite.
I couldn't really hear it that well.
We couldn't hear it at all.
Yeah, you guys suck. You don't have headphones on. You're not cool.
It's a good bit that we haven't used the same music for any of these.
All right, so we're going to debate whether dinosaurs ever really existed or not. You're going to have the caveman, me.
How ironic. Caveman, dinosaurs.
Yeah.
ET McGee here.
Yes, ET McGee. And we have...
Forrest Dens on the mic.
Oh, nice.
Destiny.
My daughter Destiny and Forrest. So the deal with the Conspiracy Theory podcast is I bring in someone that believes in conspiracy theory and someone to debate it. Since we don't really have a debater, it's going to be me and Destiny today. And our goal is to convince Forrest of our argument.
Oh, okay.
So at the end, we're going to ask Forrest what he believes and how far we got to convince him.
That's pretty cool.
Last one ended up a little crazy.
Which one? The UFO one?
Bigfoot.
Yeah, we couldn't release the UFO one.
What was your
Forrest
final
argued.
decision on Bigfoot? Yay or nay?
Our final decision on Bigfoot was that he's a forest spirit because there was no way that he could feasibly consume enough prey or vegetation without ruining the environment. So we agreed that he's a forest spirit that protects the forest.
And no dumb ones ever showed up into a city anywhere. Because if there's actually dumb ones near a city, if there's a race of people, there's always a dumb one. And the dumb one never walked into a dumpster or anything in the city.
If they were anything like people, somebody would have.
That's what I'm doing here today. I'm the dumb one.
We also did Flat Earth first. And what was our resolution on Flat Earth?
That's a good one.
Our resolution on Flat Earth is that it's a scam from the brewing companies.
Yeah, a scam.
What's a scam?
From the whiskey company, Flat Earth. Because globes are round and they can put the whiskey in there. And if they were flat, they'd have to get smaller whiskey bottles so they can get more whiskey in there if it's curved.
Wow, that's an original one.
Really, we came up that it was a conspiracy theory to make conspiracy theory people look stupid.
Okay, fair enough. Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes.
The government put that one out there for us to bite into, and then they're feeding false flag information.
That actually is a good idea now that I think back on it.
That's what really is happening with Flat Earth, I believe.
So it's all about the whiskey.
Opinion. No, I really believe that the government seeded that one as false flag.
You really believe
that's what
that?
I really personally believe.
Okay, well, it goes back before governments, right? The flat Earth is brought up in the Bible several times, so it's a little difficult.
That's a whole nother podcast. I don't want to step on that one.
I'm just saying the theory of the government making it up, though.
Yeah, they're the one that's putting it out there.
I see. They're bringing it back.
Yeah, they're using it.
Bring it back.
All right, so why do you not think that dinosaurs ever existed? Normally we have notes and we talk about this.
Yeah.
We're going right off the cuff because ET does not take notes.
That's right, baby.
It's coming in right from space.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't know, man. I just find it so hard to believe. I really do. I think that they were just like these created things by humans to profit off of. I don't really see much evidence other than these so-called fossils, which were conveniently found right around the time when evolution started taking off, the theory of evolution around the 1900s. That's when they started being found. And one thing that really bothers me about these so-called fossils and dinosaurs is, if you notice, they're never brought up in Egyptian hieroglyphs. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Hieroglyphs?
Yeah, there you go. Got it?
Yeah, so, if you look at hieroglyphs, there's tons of animals on there, from beetles to...
aliens?
There's a lot of different things other than dinosaurs. If these things roamed the earth supposedly 65 million years ago and they were as big as they were and there were as many as they were, wouldn't past civilizations have stumbled upon bones when digging? I mean, they dug huge areas all over the world to create monuments. No bones have ever been discovered prior to the 1900s. The Native Americans, it's not in any of their folklore or any of their ancient history. They roamed the Americas for how long? You don't see any dinosaur bones coming from them. I mean, don't you find that a little odd?
I did not research that, so
Well,
I don't know. But I believe
you've
that
seen
there's
enough hieroglyphs to.
I believe you're correct.
I'm actually a person that knows a lot about Egypt and like hieroglyphs and stuff. Like I used to know how to. Like I knew over like 400.
Sounds like you're having a hard time saying it.
Yeah, It's just they believed also when in their like science in their gynecology, for example, they believed that garlic like proved fertility. So how can you take like ideas from a peoples that didn't even know that blood types
But think
were
about
a thing.
that.
Before we really get into this, I just want to explain what made me laugh so hard is that Mr. ET here said you've seen enough hieroglyphs, and that's just what set me off because he's talking to you like you've seen a ton of hieroglyphs. And the most hieroglyphs you've seen are like 5th and 6th grade social studies.
He's saying I'm old, bro.
Yeah, I just meant online or on television programs and whatnot. I just made the assumption because I thought,
I have seen a lot, but I'm looking it up actually right now while
Dude,
you guys are
you're
talking.
gonna Google it?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's not an unfair advantage. You both have phones.
Yeah, we do both have phones.
Yeah.
But
I'm
the
not
problem is
Googling.
if we're both Googling, then the conversation can get real quiet real quick.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how to spell hieroglyph.
Yeah. And they said if you look at mainstream archaeology supposedly, and you can Google this as well if you want. You can Google everything I say. I don't care. I mean, you'll see it. Is that real dinosaur bones are supposedly locked behind vaults that only a select few are able to examine. If you notice, there's never any third-party independent study of these fossils, these so-called fossils. And if you go into museums, there are no fossils. It's all composites. It's all made up of paper mache. There's a company in China you can Google. It's one of the biggest exporters of so-called dinosaur fossils to the U.S. and other areas where they mix and melt down everything from chicken bones to all sorts of different bones to create these composites that then they export to museums and put together in displays. But there's never been a full skeleton ever discovered.
Well,
what do you got?
What about other things like mammoths or other
What about
old like creatures? Do you believe in like mammoths?
Sure,
and,
they're an offshoot of the elephant. They find bones all the time, but do they
if
have
they're an offshoot,
there are
Before- hey,
dinosaurs like the megalodon.
we
that
gotta
are
talk.
sharks.
Hey,
Cockroaches went back to.
We gotta talk one at a time because it's gonna come
Sorry.
over like everyone's coming at once. So what were you gonna say, Destiny?
Well, they're like dinosaurs that are very similar to the ones that we claim that were on land, and they're like the megalodon that can be like proven that they were old sharks, like that are kind of like the mammoth in the sense that they were like the elephant.
Okay, and the retort.
Oh no, that I mean that's true. Yeah, the woolly mammoths. They've been found in the permafrost, frozen, and maybe they went back many years ago. They're an offshoot of the elephant, but that doesn't mean that a reptilian brontosaurus with the neck 10 times larger than a giraffe existed, or a T-Rex that's body weight is shifted forward and biologically couldn't exist. I mean, the tail of an animal is used as a counterbalance and a counterweight. If you look at the biology of a T-Rex, their bone structures couldn't support the weight, the head, the ratio of it. It doesn't make sense. You can picture a T-Rex in your head, can't you?
Right.
Leaning forward. The size of these things, the sheer weight of it, the bones would crumble under that pressure. It's not anatomically correct. The way they're portrayed in movies and elsewhere, running at the speeds they're running at, it doesn't work biologically. And you could see that in today. Large animals move slow. You don't see, elephants running at the speed of a cheetah, but they claim that some of those dinosaurs did run that fast.
Well,
How would they know their speed?
Before I get into that, I want to go back to the artifact point. I've just been Googling, and I've been coming across a lot of artifacts that have like dinosaur, and this is from the 12th century. It's got like some kind of stegosaurus thing in it. And I thought I had seen, I haven't seen an ancient Egyptian stuff.
Where is that from?
This is from,
Can you give us more specifics?
this is from Cambodia, the Angkor Wat Temple complex in Cambodia.
What's the source?
The
Because you know those
source
things
is archaeological finds from historically
what's the website?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a long title.
Historydaily.org. Did androids ever exist? And there's a bunch of these coming on here. They're from I haven't seen anything about ancient Egypt though, and I agree with you there. But I was pretty sure there was cave drawings of
very
like
similar animals,
saber-tooth tiger kind of things that we consider like from that.
So going
era.
back to mammoths and megalodons, I have a question for the arguer that dinosaurs didn't exist. If your theory hinges on that dinosaurs are fake because of theory of evolution hype, then how can you say that dinosaurs never existed, but you can say that mammoths existed if they're an offshoot of the elephant, like you said, they evolved into elephants?
Dude, that's a really good question, man. You hit me hard with that. He's paying attention. Holy cow.
Dude, he's really good at this.
That's really good question. And I wasn't prepared for that one. Damn. You know what? I'll have to rephrase what I said earlier about the woolly mammoth being an offshoot of the elephant, because he's absolutely right. If it, I don't know. I really, listen, I'm a fact-based guy, show me, and I just see a lot of holes in this whole dinosaur thing. I just think it's a for-profit thing. I don't have the answer for the woolly mammoth and the saber-toothed tiger. I'm just making the assumption that if evolution was true, then that's, they evolved from that, or they were an offshoot of that species. But you're right. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't have all the answers. I'm just trying to look at what's given to us and decipher it. I just think... I personally don't think there's enough evidence. I mean, one time, what did they say dinosaurs were? Reptiles. Then they said they had feathers. And then they said they had this. Then they said they were this color, and they sounded like this. How do we know all that? 65 million years ago, and you're going to be able to tell me exactly what they looked like off of a few shards of bone? They've never found a complete dinosaur. They've never found one ever. Never. It's usually bone fragments they find. And then they hypothesize what these creatures look like based off of a few fragments. I mean, and that's fact. You can look that up. So, it's a lot of imagination being used. So yeah. I just feel like, it's a lot of bull too.
I think the strongest point of your argument is about the dinosaur fossils and the fossil records.
Reconstruction.
I think
reconstruction and stuff.
Another
because
strong point of his argument might a little bit be like I critiqued him, but I just want to make sure that I'm not like dampening this conversation by critiquing it. I will say that he does have a decent point about the bone structure, but I still have some questions about that too.
Well, sure. The other thing that I can bring up, and not to get too far off the topic, but when it comes to religion, if you are a God-fearing man and you believe in religion and the Bible and God, then dinosaurs shouldn't be in that thought process, because what did God do? He made man in the vision of himself, correct? I mean, according to the Bible, and 7 days, right? So where does dinosaurs fit into the equation with God? Were dinosaurs a mistake? Did he make dinosaurs and say, oh, you know what, they're just not working out the way I want, so we're just gonna, send a meteor down here and blow them all up, and
what
we're
happened
gonna
is
start humans?
The giant space cat flicked the flat Earth, and they fell off because it flipped over.
Okay, all right.
That's what really happened.
Rational.
All right.
But I do want to get into the dinosaur fossil records a little bit.
Okay.
There was a bunch of fakeness going on when the dinosaur bones were first discovered, because rich people found them and they just put them together however they wanted to, and they were making up their own dinosaurs, and there was a competition going on for a while in the 1800s.
Crone, I believe his name, there was two archaeologists. It's called the Bone Wars. You can actually Google it. There was a time when there were two paleontologists. They were competing head to head for who would have the record on the most fossils found. And I think they said, what was the number? 89% were found to be false. And supposedly only a few of those were actually authentic bones. They didn't say dinosaur bones, they just said bones. And the other thing is dating. We don't really have accurate technology to date these so-called finds. The way that I was told that they date dinosaur bones are through the inorganic and objects around where the dig is done. So, there's I think radiological type testing you can do on rocks nearby that supposedly would correlate to the bones that were found, and then that's how they get to the determination of how old they were. And those tests have been found time after time after time to be inaccurate, that those tests are not accurate. So it's a guessing game. Those bones could have been 25 years old. They're saying 65 million or millions. the testing is not that accurate to get that number close to that year.
But then again, if dinosaur bones are really that old, maybe the reason we haven't found a dinosaur bone is because dinosaurs' bones have been have decomposed into natural resources and into the soil, because part of the way that oil actually forms is from dead organisms decomposing in the ground. So, I mean, part of the reason why we might not have found a full dinosaur is not because they don't exist, but instead because of just them decomposing.
The way they decomposed, the area they were in. The world was very different. 65 million years ago, it was way more tropical-y and a lot less.
That was the first time
city.
global warming happened.
Yeah.
All right, that's another one for another day. But the Bone Wars, also known as Great Dinosaur Rush, was a rivalry between Edward Drinker Cope.
That's who I was
and
looking for.
Ortheno Charles Marsh. And those are the two guys that were doing it.
Yes.
And they're in here. It says that they were
a lot of tomfoolery.
They were financially and socially ruined by their attempts to outcompete and disgrace each other, but made important contributions to science and the field of paleontology. Sorry, my eyes are a little messed up, so it's hard to read.
Yeah, no.
And provided substantial material for further work. Both scientists left many unopened boxes of fossils after their death. And there's a lot of conspiracy theories that they made up all the stuff about the formation of the bones. Dom McDemore, the scientist that I had on for the Bigfoot podcast, talked about how come there are no bones and how fossils are made. And he described the scientific process of how bones are fossilized. And I don't know that. I could actually probably look that up. But that's why there are no true bones, because bones can't survive that long. They decompose over time.
Right, that's understandable, obviously.
The ones that happen like in the water, from what I remember in like earth science, so this was a long time ago, is that they like the sediments kind of like
the mineral deposits.
Yeah, the mineral deposits and how they like stay and
they
where
compact around the bone itself. The bone dissolves,
so
and that's what you have left.
So
that's the problem. That's the problem.
Fossils are
dating
formed.
those.
Here's a Wikipedia thing for it. Fossils are formed in a number of different ways, but most are formed when a plant or animal dies in a watery environment and is buried in mud and silt. Soft tissue quickly decomposes, leaving the hard bones or shells behind. Over time, sediment builds over the top and hardens into rock. So basically, you're finding rock.
Okay, so what you just said, found rock. How do we date rock?
Carbon dating.
Carbon dating. Look up carbon dating. Very inaccurate. It's just been found that not accurate at all. Carbon dating has been found to be false, and it's a best guess system. So whoever is running the carbon dating tests can come up with a generalization, and when you're talking about millions of years, those can be way, way off.
Although carbon dating is hit or miss, and when you hit, usually it's
You're right.
It's
like,
close.
Very
like
right.
so, I get both sides of the argument about carbon dating, because it can be way off or it can be right on. So maybe carbon dating might prove some of them are false, but it won't prove all of it.
The period of time in which carbon dating is the period of time after half of given samples have decayed. The most they can do. I'm sorry. How long is carbon dating accurate? The period of time after which half a given sample have decayed is about 5,730 years. So the oldest dates that can be reliably measured by this process to date is around 50,000 years ago.
65 million years the dinosaurs supposedly existed. You just said, what? Can you repeat that?
50,000 years ago is
That's
about...
the
50,000 years ago? Okay.
Is how it's more accurate.
Thank you.
However, like you said, there are. I mean, I don't know if it's like you said, but you said there are radiological tests, which like didn't. I mean, it's not just carbon dating.
Right.
Carbon dating is just normally what we use for more like living organisms. That
there are
we
also
recognize.
Other ways to date
carbon
things
dating
that might be more accurate.
He just said is used on rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's how they date the rocks that are forming around it. Then they have the radiological dating. I can't see how long it actually works. But I'm a retard, but I'm probably not supposed to use that word anymore.
We're going to have to cut that out.
I'm not cutting that out.
Like these digs and stuff?
But I thought that they could measure time by how deep in the earth things are as well.
Yeah.
That too.
So like when you go down into the sediment layer, I thought they can date by that as well.
They can.
I'm not an expert in that field, and none of us here are.
Yeah, we should have brought a geologist.
We can
in, too.
only go by what others tell us.
I
and
actually know a geologist.
That's the problem with a lot of these things. We have to rely on other people's so-called expertise.
Well, we've always relied on other people's expertise, and that's why you've got to kind of look at it. I feel, in a sense, the reason I believe they're real is because I've been told, but From when you're born, you're always
Be careful
told.
with that. Right, exactly.
So-
Be very careful with that. You're being told by who? People that you assume know more than you. Why? Because they wear a lab coat and they have a fancy piece of paper that says they studied a specific subject for a specific period of time. You could do the same thing. The only thing an quote-unquote expert is somebody who studies a subject longer than you, based on the material and the so-called facts from other people. None of us in this room, including myself, are an original thinker. Most people are not. They're taught and learned from people in the past who then taught them, who then taught them, who then taught them.
But I think everyone listening to that would think that me and you are both original thinkers. I'm just going to throw that out there right now.
I'll accept that.
I think our mentality is not down a normal frame.
I mean, yes. I mean, yeah.
The things we think about are a little bit different.
Yes.
But I want to get back to the bones. So is your hypothesis that these bones are totally fake and it's just rock, or what are these things that we are finding in the ground?
One of the interesting things you can look at is if you type in dinosaur eggs, okay? The eggs, they literally look like round pieces of rock, which supposedly they are, right? Because they're fossilized. Right, they're fossilized. So how do you know that that was an egg? You can't crack it open, and there's plenty of rocks out there.
Did you see Jurassic Park, bro?
Jurassic Park?
Yeah, that's what they did. That's how
they got the mosquito. Huh?
I thought they took they found an egg and
what they did is they in the Jurassic Park movies they
found
the egg. They
that's funny you say that. Another interesting fact before I forget.
Hey,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, that's okay. When one of us talks, the other one's got to be quiet. So he was talking. Well, I'll be quiet. Go ahead. Talk.
I didn't want to lose this train of thought because he mentioned Jurassic Park. If you look at Jurassic Park, Ice Age, the Dino Wars on the History Channel, anything that involves dinosaur propaganda when it comes to movies, cartoons, anything, they're all owned by two people. Who? J.P. Morgan and the Rothschilds. So how convenient that those two people own those companies that put out that material. To me, that says it's profit and based and driven. I mean, you got to keep dinosaurs interesting. You got to keep telling them to children so that they go see the movies, they ride the theme parks. I mean, it generates a lot of money. If you look at a T-Rex skull, supposedly, they go for millions of dollars. I mean, didn't Nicolas Cage get in trouble recently? He had to return a stolen skull he had purchased, supposedly, somewhere.
I did read that.
Yeah, and it was for hundreds and thousands of dollars. I mean, the money behind this is amazing. So, of course, you know, a group like the Rothschilds or J.P. Morgan are going to be involved owning these companies. Go ahead. I know you got a rebuttal.
I don't have a rebuttal about Jurassic Park because I think that's off topic a little bit. But I did want to ask you, what's your retort to, like, you said they can't just crack open eggs. What's your retort to, what if we did just crack open the eggs to see if they're real?
Go ahead. What's your retort first?
What do you mean, like the eggs that they found?
Yeah, why couldn't we just crack them open to see if they're real dinosaur eggs?
I don't have an egg. I would crack it open if I had one.
All right, so here's what Wikipedia says. The interior of a dinosaur egg can be studied using CAT scans or by gradually dissolving away the shell with acid. Sometimes the egg preserves the remains of the developing embryo inside. The oldest known dinosaur eggs and embryos are from somewhere they can't say,
Mesopotamia?
No, which lived in the early Jurassic about 190 million years ago. Again, I don't know how they dated that because we just talked about. I'm not sure how the dating works, but they do have an egg, and they can.
Who's that?
They have the baby.
I don't know. Dinosaur eggs. They were discovered in China before gradually diffusing into the West.
You gotta be careful.
Chinese have done everything.
You gotta be careful when you deal with China. They're, like I said, the largest manufacturer in the world of dinosaur composite bones or fossils. They're one of the largest distributors to factories across the world. China.
I will say on this eggs thing, I'm a little skeptical about the eggs because if you crack open an egg and you see something that doesn't exist now, I mean, it doesn't exist now. So it's either a dinosaur or it's something really old. So
aliens.
Hey, you never know, but why haven't they cracked anything open? You know, you remember Wikipedia is a peer
editors.
Yeah, it's not.
This is not a high enough budget podcast to pull things up that quickly, though.
I know. I don't have Jamie here, so I don't know. I'm typing in like with my one finger typing, bro. Like we can't ask for too much.
Yeah, no.
This is why I like to do a little bit of research first because I don't want to type it up. But
yeah,
I don't know about the dinosaur eggs, but I'm pretty sure that dinosaur eggs exist. Otherwise, why would everyone be scared that we're going to clone the shits?
I mean,
people are afraid we're going to clone them because they watch Jurassic Park.
Right. But, I mean, if they're finding, like...
If you're scared that there's going to be cloning, then it's going to happen already. It's already happening. You know,
They already cloned a sheep.
Yeah, if they've already cloned a sheep, they've already done a human. If they have the capability of cloning a so-called dinosaurs, they would have already done it. I mean,
Who knows if they haven't? The government hides a lot.
You never know. Maybe there's little dinosaurs running around somewhere.
That's what Area 51 really is, dude. There's no spaceships there. They're hiding the dinosaurs there. Oh, by the way, I want to thank ET McGee. He brought me a flat Earth medallion.
Yes,
I probably put that around one of my boxer guys, and an alien figurine. And that really made my day, dude. When he dropped that stuff off, I was like, man, that's perfect for the podcast. Like Forrest says, we need a bigger desk in here.
Yeah.
We either need a bigger desk or like a different desk, or we should get a bigger space.
And I think we're going to do a couple of these rotating conspiracy theories with Ryan, because this is actually going really good, and we're going to bring in we'll do a couple more topics that you like, and I'm going to get an expert in here to talk with you, so I don't feel like a retard. I'm going to actually take notes too.
Yeah, I'll come a little bit more prepared too. Like I said, just off the cuff of things that I've thought about myself.
Well, we're not done yet.
No, we're not even close.
And talking about not being done yet, we've been stuck on eggs and bones and stuff. Yeah. I have 1 point, I have 1 point and one question.
Sure.
So if I can just get my point out first, I think part of the whole fossil deal is also we had like big supercontinents when dinosaurs were around, and then the way that we know how land masses work now, they had to separate over a long period of time. So I mean, I don't know, fossils. That's probably one way how fossils formed, and another thing is maybe we haven't found fossils in other places that are less developed, or maybe there are even some in like underwater or in other crazy places that we haven't, thought about.
Yeah.
We know only 95% of our ocean. They could be down there still. You never know if megalodons still do exist.
Sure, absolutely. But the land masses were once together, and you said they separated. So the dinosaurs, if they were around when they were around, had to have roamed those land masses. And if you look to what mainstream archaeologists tell us, is that there were millions of them. They were, herds of these ginormous creatures. You would think that you could go into your backyard right now and start digging and you'd find a bunch of dinosaur bones. You don't. These bones are found in specific areas that seem to be targeted for the digs by the paleontologists. If they were so frequent and so numerous, we dig all over the place. We dig canals. We dig foundations for buildings, for homes. Digging happens all over the world in modern times, and dinosaur bones are never found. If they were in the amount that they claim they were in and the size that they were in, they'd be all over the place.
So first of all, I'm gonna just go against you on that for a second. But I brought up a picture of what the continent looked like during the Jurassic period.
Pangea?
I don't know what it's called.
When it's the super.
Isn't that from like Avatar?
No,
that's a real thing.
It's called Pangea.
They're all
basically
was Avatar too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is, right? The planet from Avatar?
No,
I think so.
It's real.
It could be, but I know that's real. I know Pangea is real.
Pangea is what they called our supercontinent. When everything was
we just make it
together.
super dumb.
But I will say, for our audio listeners, I just kind of want to describe what it is. Basically, the supercontinent is it's kind of like North America and Europe and Asia are one continent. And Africa and South America and like these two other land masses, which is like Jurassic Australia and Jurassic South Pole, are really close together. So that's what the map looked like.
Absolutely.
So I want to get back into why there's not dinosaur bones everywhere.
Okay.
Dom did talk about this a lot during the Bigfoot podcast, which is really good. I know I keep going back to it, but Dom was a great guest. And he said that the dinosaur bones form very rarely, and that the dinosaurs actually had to die in something like wet for the body to decompose. So they have to die in certain places. So that's why they're so rare dinosaur bones to find. So even though there's millions of them, there's only a couple. I forgot what he actually knew what the chances of them, or like their best guess of what the chances of them dying in the area that they needed to die in to become bones. Like fossilized bones.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
like tar pits.
Yeah, that's why you don't have dinosaur bones all over the place, because it's a super special process for that to actually occur.
Yeah, and that makes sense. The problem though is like when Forrest was talking about like the supercontinents, we don't know 100% accuracy what the climates were back then. We don't know what the ecology was back then. I mean, there's best case. So if you look at,
we kind of do though, right? Because that's what formed the rock formations in the planet. That's what it would take for the dinosaur bones to be.
Okay, but if
everywhere.
So wherever there's the rocks and the crust as it puts on, that's where I would think that area would be. So we do kind of know where it is.
We do.
Or we would know it if we ran into it, if we found it. You're digging and you see it.
If you had a supercontinent and then it broke apart, and this supposedly happened millions of years ago, today with accuracy we know exactly what a part of New York State was 50 million years ago.
I think part of the thing is like
I can't remember the weather last week, bro. I don't know.
Yeah, but there's smart people doing that. It's not people like us.
He has a point though. Like some of those supercontinents were over oceans and stuff. So do we really know what the climate would be where oceans are now?
Thank you.
And on the same token, like where there are land masses now and the land masses then, there are definitely overlaps. So we know what the climate is there and we know where to look. So we know the climate there, but at the same time, I do somewhat see his point about climate. Like, how do you understand climate millions of years ago if it's where oceans are now?
But that's kind of what we have now, that we're fighting like this whole global warming thing. Who's to say we weren't in an ice age? Like you never know with, especially environmental aspects. You don't really know that because unlike rocks, we can't see the environment 65 million years ago like we could see the rocks.
Right. So you're kind of proving my point then. We don't know with 100% accuracy what the weather was like.
Also, I believe that, like you were talking about how these dinosaurs were formed and how big they are and how they move around and stuff. I think the climate was actually, I would say that it was different. I think that oxygen and nitrogen, everything would be a little bit different in the air as well.
Yeah, I agree.
There was less oxygen, that's why they had to be so huge.
Right.
Even like bugs, like different types of undersea animals are super large because of the pressures and the low oxygen they have to face. That's why I kind of keep going back to the ocean, because it's something that's been very non-changing over these millions of years, and that's why you find the most fossils like there. Like that's how you see a lot of the
sharks are dinosaurs,
like
bro.
Dinosaurs. Sharks are pretty much dinosaurs. They've been around longer than we have.
Yeah, no.
Different breeds and everything.
However, just because we found this one hole with climate, I mean, this one climate thing definitely doesn't just prove. Yeah. So I just want to, since the podcast, there's hope. There's hope for this dinosaurs don't exist thing. I do see this hole, but I also see I think I can also see this hole not completely like disproving
where's the evidence? Just show me the evidence. Where is there evidence? We're talking about something that supposedly existed 65 million years ago. Now, people throw the word million around quite loosely these days. I don't think the human brain can comprehend 65 million years on the scale of what it really is. That is a long time ago. Okay, so to have, with the accuracy that they claim they have today, that these creatures roamed the earth and they were only found maybe 10 years before 1900, and there's no talk about them prior to that, when we have plenty of records and data going back prior to the 1900s. But dinosaurs, all of a sudden, when these bone wars were created, they exploded. Now they're found everywhere across the world. There's $1 million industries built around them. I mean, it just, to me, just seems like it just seems nonsense.
I got a rebuttal for that.
This leads into my question too.
What's your question? Go ahead, ask your question.
All right, so this led into my question that I had, because I had one point and one question. This leads into my question, like, so you're asking for proof, and you're saying, oh, the human mind might not be able to comprehend, isn't able really. Like, I believe that's true. We can't really comprehend those big numbers. But what can comprehend those big numbers are computers, and I feel like a lot of the way that we put together these, but like the models are through computer simulation and stuff. So there is some imagination that goes into it, but computers are a lot smarter than humans and can comprehend all that time. So, like, what's your rebuttal to?
Because computers are only as good as the humans that are using and programming them. Computers are not AI. They don't know anything. They're only given the data points that we give them. And computers didn't exist in the 1900s. This is when the so-called dinosaur bone wars exploded. I mean, there's no evidence we have more information about ancient Egypt than we do about dinosaurs. They just came out of nowhere all of a sudden. And then and then exploded into these industries that, you know, are crazy. I mean, if they really did exist, I just feel like our schools would educate us more into it. We'd learn more off of it. I just think it was conveniently happened around the time when evolution, the theory of evolution, came about. And it was just a great way to help prove that theory, if you believe in it. And, you know, there's other agendas, too. That's my personal belief. I just think there's not enough compelling evidence. You know, like you said, these mineralized fossils that were bones at one time, they could have just been regular animals. You know, I mean, then they put together these great composite. I mean, have you ever, I don't know if you guys have ever been to like a modern museum or like a dinosaur museum, you know, like they have a really good one in New York City.
They have a pretty good dinosaur exhibit in the Buffalo
Museum
of Science.
Okay,
too.
and none of those exhibits have any real bones or fossils in the exhibits themselves. They're all just composites of the imagination. I mean, look at the is it Brontosaurus? I mean, a giraffe has the highest blood pressure in the animal kingdom and has to be very specific the way it carries its head in modern times. You're telling me that a Brontosaurus that size, its neck, what was it, over 30 feet long, existed? Come on, bro. I mean, just look at the thing.
I think you just need to become the president or like the leader of China somewhere so you can see the real bones.
Yeah, you got a point there. That's a good thing to look up. You know, how come there's only a select few paleontologists or archaeologists that are allowed to examine these bones, and third-party independent scholars are not able to have access to them?
Because they're the
only...
If
you're Dominic Damore, please leave comments in the comment section.
It's because fossils are like are probably more valuable than like diamond, because diamonds might be valuable to the human eye, but fossils are like important to science, just like going to space and space rocks. And
that was a good one.
So
sorry.
I mean, I think part of the reason why you don't see these
He's
fossils
going to tell you space isn't real next.
I'm so glad you brought that up because you're on the same train of thought as me, but I got one for you based on that. Okay, so you said, you know, fossils are important scientific discoveries just like space rocks. Well, how convenient if you look at the parallels of the so-called moon rocks that were brought back to Earth, supposedly. Do you know that there is no authentic moon rocks in existence at all in the world, and that the last 3 supposed moon rocks, I think one was gifted to one of the countries by Neil Armstrong himself, was proven to be false and fake. All of these moon rocks have been fake. No, there is no authentic moon rock that is on the Earth today.
Well, part of the reason that is there is because you can't really authenticize moon rocks because they're from the moon, and we don't like. I mean, I'm sure if America didn't give up its space program, we might have a base there. You could say all that or whatever, but like we don't. So you can't. I feel like it's hard to authenticize moon rocks.
Authenticate, but
whatever that.
Yeah.
Whatever
we are gonna definitely do whether the moon landing was real or fake, because that is something I 100% love to talk about. But
okay, I can't lose my train of thought because I want to come back.
Let's go back
Forrest.
let's go back to the dinosaur bones.
You just said not too long ago that carbon dating is either 100% accurate or it's not, or you had made a comment that sometimes it nails it on the head and sometimes it doesn't. So
it's only accurate to so far to the 50,000 years ago, like we stated, but we're outside of that window already.
Okay, but we went to the moon less than 50,000 years ago. So if we're in that window, why isn't carbon dating proven that these moon rocks came from the moon and they were ancient and old? Because the moon is supposedly very old, right?
The moon is older.
The moon is older than dinosaurs.
Supposedly. If you want to get into another conspiracy, I don't think the moon was here since the dawn of Earth. It was brought into our solar system.
The main theory about the moon
this is gonna be great.
The main theory about the moon is from the Earth, but I think we're getting off topic, so we should finish up the conversation about like.
All right.
how
I can go back and retort some of the stuff. I had to write notes down because it's been so long since I got a chance to talk. I like this. I don't have to talk much. You asked why there weren't some bones found before the 1800s. Why there's all these bones found now? The 1800s, the 1900s. I'm sorry, the 1900s when this crusade started.
1856.
Yeah, 1856 when the Bone Wars started. Thank you. I don't even have it up anymore. I'm just taking your word for it. So that's probably not very good for arguing with you. But whenever the Bone Wars happened, which I agree they happened, they invested a lot of money researching bones. That's why we started discovering bones, because they started paying for bones, and then bones started becoming valuable.
Fossils, though.
Fossils, right? Yeah, the fossils, right? Because their bones don't exist. I agree with you. It's just
Yeah, no, I get it.
Terminology, but they started finding the dinosaur fossils because there's now money involved in finding the fossils, and that's why they're turning up, and that's why there's so many fake fossils going on, and that's why there's a lot of like BS going on with fake dinosaurs, and they're making fake dinosaurs out of the bones that they're putting together, and that's where a lot of that came from. But I believe that they're finding real dinosaur bones, and they're just more valuable now, and that's why people are turning them in. And this is where we disagree, because you're saying they're fake bones, and I'm saying they're real bones. So this is where our conflict's coming in, and we got a judge to decide who's making a better argument there.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion on that. Also about the computers. The computers they weren't using in 1900. We're using the computers now today to go back and do that. So your whole trying to turn the tables on the 13-year-old. He's smarter than us anyways, but that's not going to work. That was some BS, man. Like, they're using computers now. We all know that they were using abacuses in the 1900s. Not like computers, but the computers we're using are now in like 2019.
And that's what we're using to make the model.
What I was going to say, like, the rebuttal against, like, why we haven't found them sooner is you say, like, we're digging up for, like, infrastructure in our cities, but we're not digging 65 million years deep in the middle of New York to build a building. We're digging like 2 feet into the ground.
I also have another retort from that. Back in the day, they're like slave labor making that stuff. And they don't care what they find. They're like, they're going to get that out of the way, and they're going to build whatever they're building. It's a different time, so they're not going to like look at the stuff. They have to move it, or they're going to get whipped.
That is
true.
Well, they're not going to get whipped.
They might get whipped if they're slaves building like the temples and stuff.
Egyptians, yeah.
Yeah, the Egyptians.
No, 65 million years ago doesn't equate to the depth of how far a dig has to be. If you look at archaeologist sites, some digs are a few feet, some are a few 100 feet. That doesn't match up. Just because age doesn't match up with how deep a dig needs to be. I mean, continents move, like you said, and there's all sorts of erosion that takes place. So that necessarily doesn't match up. You can't attribute age with the depth of something.
I'm not saying entirely the depth. I'm just saying you're way less likely to find a fossil if you go in like shovel deep, not excavator deep.
Because we have dug
we have a lot more technology
holes.
to even like to delicately pick up fossils. Like back in the day, we didn't used to, like we weren't very delicate with our scientific research. Now, like as we are now, keep the fossils intact.
The host handed the debater a paper, and the face he made is
hilarious.
It's a scary face.
They misaged the pyramids? Did they really?
Yeah, you didn't hear about that?
No. Did they? I know that there's constantly
debate.
The pyramids are a whole nother topic on its own. Like you guys said earlier, we could do a whole podcast on that. But yeah, again, I mean, what are pyramids made out of? Stone. This is the problem we're getting into with dating things. It's all best guess data information. Nobody here or anywhere in the world lived that long ago, and to put something as accurately at 65 million years, I just think it's a best guess. Just like everything else, like how old were the pyramids? Well, we could put it in an area, but that area can fluctuate thousands of years, and in thousands of years, a lot of things can happen. I mean, all this modern technology we're using now and all the great innovations we have are in a matter of 100 years. That's nothing. So when you're talking about thousands of year differences between things, a lot can happen on the earth and elsewhere in time. I mean, so it's this whole dating thing. I just don't think we have it down yet. I don't think the technology is there to put accurate pinpoint dates on a lot of archaeological, sites like the pyramids.
I wish I've more recently rewatched the Cosmos show by Neil deGrasse, because that has a lot of that has a lot of good tidbits of information that's proven.
That guy's a joke.
That brought up a question in my mind, like, is there not proof of like the big meteor strikes and the things that wiped out the dinosaurs?
God damn, you stole my next.
From the are you referring to the Yucatan Peninsula, the meteor strike they have, if you look on satellite imagery, supposedly there's a crater in the Yucatan in Mexico. That was the one that supposedly took out the dinosaurs.
Well, is there have you like done any, have you ever like thought about the evidence that there was of a extinction level event that could have Like, have you ever like
Even like any
dug into
volcano
that or thought about
eruption.
like how that might disprove or prove your theory?
The only thing, no, not really, because mainstream science says there was an impact that hit the Earth that took out the dinosaurs, whatever amount of years ago.
And I mean, you like.
How come it didn't? Okay, so the impact. Why don't you tell me? Do you know anything about the impact? So
No, I was asking you since you're the one debating it. But like the meteor strikes, I just wanted to make sure that it's clear. Like it's clear. Like it should be clear because I hope it's clear that we realize that the meteor strikes didn't kill the dinosaurs. It was the meteor strikes that blotted out the sun and stopped photosynthesis that killed the dinosaurs.
So we're told.
That's the theory.
Right. I'm sorry.
The computer, Google, says that the dinosaur-killing asteroid that hit the Earth around 66 million years ago, again, the dating, I'm sure that Dom...
Okay, let's just go past that.
It's all right. We'll get into the dating, whether it's 66 million years ago or 6 days ago. Well, if it was 6 days ago, we'd probably know, but you get my point. Probably generated a huge tsunami, according to new research. I don't know how they know that, but it would definitely alter the...
it's a large impact.
Yeah. A team of scientists dug into the Chicxulub crater, which is the scar left over from the impact that's located in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
I
it
said
hit in
that,
Mexico.
right?
Yeah, you said yeah, that's right.
So I mean, there's evidence that there was an impact at some time.
So you believe there was an impact then?
Well, I mean, there is sufficient evidence being that satellite photo. I mean, I'm not an expert in that field. None of us are, so I don't know exactly what those craters...
It's in Mexico, so we could probably go there and see it. Like,
well, it's huge.
We
it's
could
ginormous.
also use that fact to disprove it, but that's...
To go there?
No, we could use the fact that it's... I was making a joke about...
Yeah, it's definitely there. There's a crater there, but there's craters all over the world. I mean, when did that meteor hit? What did it do to the Earth? What was the impact like? What was around at that time? So did the impact, and I don't know the answer to this, but when that impact hit and it blotted out the sun and supposedly it changed the temperature of the air and the climates around the around the globe, if you believe in a round globe. So everything then, I'm assuming it was wiped clean slate. The Earth was a clean slate. Is that what they theorize?
I mean, it's
kinda.
It wouldn't have been completely
all
wiped
animals
clean.
and mammals were wiped clean.
No, not like
No, but
everything, but like the big ones that relied on the certain type of atmosphere, like the dinosaurs. Not like the little, certain vegetation also died.
It would also change.
All the vegetation would have to die. If it blotted out the sun, vegetation can't live without sun.
Yeah,
right.
Photosynthesis.
It wouldn't have wiped everything
not
clean
everything.
because I don't think you can wipe everything clean off the world because it's a big world.
That's what I was saying.
It wiped out like a huge majority. So, and it didn't change the soil or anything because it did clear out a lot.
I killed them over time, so it was I killed them over time, so that would mean that all the vegetation's dying. So they're all dying. I mean, it's an extinction event. So
they're all dying.
Like
so
all the plant life had
left.
to die then as well.
How long was that extinction event? Is there anything on there? Like from the time of the impact to the end of all living creatures, what is the time frame there? Was it a matter of days?
Generation? A generation. A little less than a generation.
What would that be? 100 years?
Probably like however long dinosaurs live, which is probably, around somewhere in between older, like mammals that live till older and...
See, that's another problem. Where did dinosaurs come from? How did they start?
We don't know the answer to that. So.
Why not? We know the answer where human beings supposedly came from, right?
Well,
we evolved out of the oceans. We evolved out of the oceans. I mean, that's what evolution tells us. So how can we figure that out, but we can't? We don't know the answers to where. That's another mystery.
All life started from like the microbes in the ocean. We don't have the answer to how life
started. Is
started.
that what happened to the dinosaurs? That's another interesting question. Where did they come from? All of a sudden, dinosaurs existed 65 million years ago. It's fact. We accept it. We find the fossils, and let's move on. Let's make a couple cool movies, and we'll go from there. Where did these things come from?
They crawl out of the water, bro.
Why did they come from anything? And then that questions your belief in higher power, and it can get into all those...
You're going way into something totally different.
But it does.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, if you believe in life
and
consciousness, where did these things come from?
We don't know how life forms, but we know that we evolve... Well, we know that we... according to mainstream science, I'm not going to say anything because I'm supposed to be swayed, but according to science, we evolved from these small-celled organisms, and we evolved, everything evolved into different paths, which you kind of are arguing by saying dinosaurs are about theory of evolution hype, and theory of evolution hype. If you're saying that the theory of evolution is false, then, I mean, you don't know. So I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, the only question... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I've been waiting to send this. I looked this up.
please.
This is from Oxford. Dinosaurs lived during the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods. During these periods, the climate was much warmer with CO2 levels over 4 times higher than today. That's what I didn't know exactly what it was, but back in the day, so CO2 is 4 times higher.
Yeah.
This produced an abundant plant life, so there's lots more plant life because they use the CO2. And herbivorous dinosaurs may have evolved large bodies, partly because there's enough food to support them, but also being large protect them from predators. So they tried to outgrow the predators. So then the predators grew bigger to eat them, and that's what it's saying.
So they just kept exponentially growing bigger and bigger. The vegans were huge, and then they started eating the meat eaters started eating the vegans.
But that's kind of like how
evolution is.
That's what evolution is, and this is over a period, a long period of time.
Just like we grew
I
bigger
think-
if you believe in
brains.
I think the important question is like, his main point is, dinosaurs are coming up when the theory of evolution is getting more popular. So I think what he's trying to get across is like, is more about evolution.
Stop making his argument for him.
He's absolutely right about that because one of the problems with evolution I have is when animals evolve into other animals. How come we don't find those transitional animals? The periods of time when they name one.
I can't name one.
You can't find them. There are.
Whatever. I can't say it.
Gigantic.
that one.
That's an offshoot species of a bipedal hominoid. Hominoid, if I'm pronouncing it right.
So are you saying
There's offshoot chimpanzees, human beings.
So there's your
good
examples right there.
So basically, what you're saying is like, so what I'm getting from it is like, whatever. So you're saying whatever created life. You're believing in a more religious type of answer to life. So whatever created life created everything separately. They created humans, and they created animals, and they created plants. So that's what you're trying to
kind of. I mean, that's not exactly what I believe in. I don't know, but I just find it. It's weird that evolution supposedly tells us that animals transitioned right from the ocean to sea-dwelling animals came out of the oceans to become mammals, and they walked the land, and then blah blah blah. They evolved. And
so you basically believe things were just created how they were. There wasn't like branching things. Things were just created and they stayed there.
I don't know. I mean, that's a really good question. I don't know enough about the subject. I just have a few questions about it. I don't know the truth of the matter when it comes to evolution. I don't know what's right and wrong. I don't know if creationism is the way to go or evolution is the way to go. I don't have the answer to that. I wish I had more information, but some things just don't add up. Like the common housefly. Where did that evolve from?
Maggot.
They flap their what? Yeah, I know. But I'm just saying. I don't know. I don't really have a good answer. I don't really have a good answer for that. But like the transitional period, the animals during transition, we don't find any evidence of those. I mean, we have evidence of these creatures that walked 65 million years ago, but we don't have evidence of the species in between the evolution.
There's like the Tasmanian devil dogs that they're like kind of like the transition between like coyotes and other.
Yeah, but that
I
could
see
be.
I see what he's saying. Like he's saying that there are holes in what we believe. We believe humans went from more ape-like things to humans, but he's saying we don't see the middle. We don't see ape humans.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So you're just questioning how things almost metamorphosized into different things.
You worded it a lot better than I did. That's exactly right.
But I mean, I would think that would kind of change the topic of the conspiracy to more of a do you believe in evolution or do you believe in creationism less than were the dinosaurs real?
Well, it ties into that.
Because that's more of what you're arguing.
That's part of his argument.
Yeah, it ties into that.
With the fake bones.
We're just really deep in it.
Right, it is really deep.
That's what happened.
That's absolutely right.
And then digs you deep into creationism, and then you get religious. And
well, no,
we've steered away from religion. We tried it.
Yeah, I definitely want to stay away from that. But the people would say to me, well, why would they fake dinosaurs then? For profit, to prove the theory of evolution.
There was a lot of profit in it. We've established that.
Huge, man. I mean, money rules the world. You know that. If you can generate money and keep generating it, you're going to keep doing it. You're going to keep doing it. I mean, the amount of money that goes into these digs and these archaeological digs.
Money is the root of all conspiracies.
Museum.
All right,
Well
we're at 55 minutes in.
Okay.
Let's have your final remarks and your final argument.
Oh, geez, you put me on the spot here.
Well, you
I
go
put all
first.
my arguments out already.
All right, like we'll just.
I wish I had, like I said, I wish I had footnotes where I could sum it up really good. But, geez, I guess the best thing I could say is just don't believe other human beings that claim to be more educated. I mean, bring it to me, show me, and I don't know. I guess, I don't really have a final ending. You put me on a spot here.
All right.
So we'll go to you. We'll go to Destiny and then you.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
Well, my whole thing is you can't be brought everything. There are some things that you have to take. Obviously, you can't take everything that everybody says. You always have to take it with a grain of salt. But there are some things you just have to take as proof. Like you can't see gravity, but it's there.
Whoa.
Oh. That's a whole nother podcast. You just started another can of worms.
Gravity. Woo.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Your buddy Neil deGrasse Tyson even said he doesn't know what that is. He even said
but that's my whole point.
Him and Joe Rogan just had an hour argument about that.
Even like basic mathematics to like create certain machines and stuff. You just kind of take it as you are shown. Like,
that's the problem, though. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah. Well,
there are some things that you kind of have to, and that's like kind of what I'm saying here is there are some things you have to take where you can't see everything in your lifetime. So there are some things you just kind of have to believe and move on. I mean, especially if it's something like the dinosaurs, which are very hard to argue since they're not going to let you go and see those fossils unless you are of some high standing. They're not just going to let any goofball into the dinosaur chambers.
Why?
We went over this.
All right. So here's my final take on it. First of all,
your last 2 cents.
Yeah, my last 2 cents. I believe that dinosaurs grew with the environment. The environment was lush for vegetation to grow. And we've seen when creatures are able to grow, they do grow. It's evolution. We can witness it even if you believe in evolution from dinosaurs or not. Would you agree that humans have evolved over time? Our heads have gotten bigger, our bodies have changed? You don't believe that?
No, I don't.
You don't believe that humans have been...
No, I believe that we're possibly a higher power, be that aliens... Came down, screwed with the DNA of chimpanzees. So our human brain doubled in size.
Not from chimpanzees, but just from people.
We went over it. Was
all right. So
he believes things just are kind of set in the way they were.
Right. So even in the 40s, humans were smaller than they are today. We eat a lot worse food. We eat shitty food. We're bigger.
Eat more food,
we're taller. We're bigger. We're thicker because we have more access to food. So we got more food. We grow bigger. Would you agree with that?
Sure, yeah, that sounds about
all right. So that's like evolving.
Also, medical advances.
Right. So let's say like for dinosaurs, the lush vegetation is like sugar and gummy bears and popsicles and beer. So they got big and fat. The fat ones did, and then the other ones they're like really hungry. So like, oh, that one looks good. I'm gonna eat it. So those ones got bigger because they ate the big fat vegetation gummy bear eating motherfuckers. So now they're eating those things, and they got bigger, right? That's how dinosaurs got big. That's my theory. So,
dang, dude, they got really big then. They're bigger than houses, dude.
Well, look at those fat 800-pound ladies that just eat gummy bears all day. I don't know exactly how fossils are formed. We talk about that it has to be in liquid, like tar pit kind of stuff, for them to be formed.
We need a real doctor for that.
We need a real doctor for it. That's a little bit out of our wheelhouse. Yeah. But fossils, would you agree, are rare to come by the way that they need to be formed?
Yeah, that makes sense if they truly exist.
So whether
that long ago, I mean, maybe
if they exist, you agree that for them to form, like you don't even have to agree that they exist, but if they do exist, the way that they're generated is a pretty rare occurrence. So
that would make sense.
That's why they're so rare.
Sure.
Also, I believe in the old days they were not caring if they found a rock that looked like a bone in the ground. They didn't give a shit because they had to build whatever they're building. Times are different.
Yeah, but what do you mean? Like if they saw a rock with an imprint of, let's say, a lizard
or even one that looked
throw that aside. You don't need to worry about that.
Well, yeah, they're building skyscrapers, and that's all they're worried about.
Well, they're moving rocks. They're building pyramids. It takes a really long time for them to build stuff and move shit, and it's in the way, and people are dying while they're doing it. Like we said, they don't come out in complete. They're not going to be like it looks like a giant Tyrannosaurus. They're gonna like be pieces strewn about that they're putting together however they think about it. I agree with you that maybe the dinosaurs aren't put together. Like, you have some very valid points in what you're saying, but I would say that you're not gonna find giant whole carcasses of dinosaurs, so they're not gonna
or skulls.
Yeah, they're not gonna be like taking a brush and brushing this shit off and figuring out what they think is a bone, right? They're moving rocks on top of it in the old days.
And humans are very get out of the way
Still my turn to talk.
Oh, I was just commenting on what you said. Like,
yeah.
I was gonna help. I was just saying that you were right, because humans are very get out of the way species. If something's in our way, we try and get rid of it and try and get it out of the way. So that's all I wanted to say.
You definitely made that sound better than I did. Also, I agree with you about the bone stuff, but I also agree that we found more bones in that time. And there's a lot of fuckery going on, because anytime there's money involved, there's fuckery going on. And you are 100% correct there.
Okay.
My hypothesis is that dinosaurs did exist.
I thought I'm supposed to be the one with the hypothesis.
No, you're going to tell us what you believe. We're both trying to convince you. His hypothesis is that they're not dinosaurs. My hypothesis is that there is dinosaurs. He has a couple valid points, not very many, because he didn't really do very good research. And we've even the guy that he's trying to convince was I'm convincing him about some of the stuff that he believes in, just like last time. But I do think that there were dinosaurs. I believe that he's right about some of the fuckery that went on with dinosaur bones, and I don't think he made too many other good points. But the dinosaur bones for real. Well, I'm arguing against you, man. I can't agree with you. I helped you out. I even tried to help out your argument a little bit about the carbon dating. I don't think that shit matters, and I think you can tell by where it is in the ground. Like, when they existed doesn't matter as much as if they existed or not for this podcast.
Yeah, but glaciers cruise across the ground all the time and change the schematics of all landscapes. Landscapes don't remain the same, especially millions of years ago. The erosion.
But shit sits on top of each other.
No way, man. That moves. It's called tectonic plates in the earth. They shift. They move.
We got it.
All right. So, hour and 4 minutes. We talked a bunch of BS to you. What is your final conclusion, sir?
I hate to say it, but my final conclusion is very similar to your conclusion. Both debates are correct. He brought up a lot of things that like show up in what we know and that are odd and don't make sense. So honestly, I'm convinced that there were dinosaurs, but I'm not convinced about bigger dinosaurs and all those things because
gummy bear eating dinosaurs? Come on, man, that was a great analogy.
Because while there was so much stuff, it's very similar to Bigfoot. Even if there is all this lush stuff, like vegans and stuff, they all eat plants and they look healthy and they're skinny, but they're skinny. They're not big.
Right.
And like dinosaurs weren't intelligent.
Are cows big?
Yeah.
But they stay the same size. They don't get.
But we also feed them.
They don't get as big as a house.
But cows are natural.
We feed them meat on farms because our system of feeding people has messed
up.
All our animals were way smaller before we started.
What about hippopotamuses? Or do they eat people?
Hippopotami.
People, they eat people. They're
one
of the biggest
killers. What about
rhinoceroses?
Rhinoceroses are not. I don't think they're because those animals are big and scary, so they just eat whatever they want.
What about giraffes? They're really big. They eat green leafy vegetables.
Size.
Maybe they're fake. No, but like so
I've never seen a real giraffe. You might be right.
So I was just joking about giraffes. There are some unexplained things on both sides.
He just made fun of his mom's favorite animal, dude. He is so grounded.
But dinosaurs also weren't intelligent beings. Vegetarians and vegans and stuff, they know where to get the protein if they want to.
How do we know if they're smart or not? They have big heads. Maybe they didn't have pea brains.
The stuff there's information on this. They obviously weren't intelligent because they're just like animals now that we have, and animals now are not intelligent enough to recognize things because we feed all our animals that we use like beef for beef and chicken and stuff. We feed all of those animals really horrible stuff that we just mix in. All our leftovers, we just give it to animals. Sometimes animals are eating other animals that are the same animal as them.
Especially pigs. Mm-hmm. That's just sad.
Especially pigs. So, like, they're obviously not intelligent enough if they're just like other animals to decipher, all right, this one has protein. This one is not very nutritionally valuable to me. So I don't think that even with all that vegetation, they would be able to discern which ones are more valuable, and therefore I don't think.
I'm confused by what you're saying because, like, plant eaters.
You're saying just because you have that many plants around doesn't necessarily mean that the animals are going to double and quadruple in size and then eat bigger animals and get bigger and bigger.
If you're eating leaves off a tree, it's probably not as healthy if you're... So if some dinosaur was just eating leaves and it's like lettuce off a tree, if it's really that big, then it can't be super fat and as tall as it was because there's not enough value in it. But maybe I think carnivores could be bigger if they're eating all the animals.
Yeah, but what are they eating?
All the carnivore dinosaurs are big and scary, like the T-Rex or the raptor. So those are probably the bigger dinosaurs.
The raptors aren't really that big if you look at it.
Well, they're scary and they have sharp teeth and they're thick.
That's what they tell us.
I'm not going to argue that anymore. This is a final
So
thing.
my final 2 cents is that, like I was saying, I don't think dinosaurs could have been that big. There were definitely dinosaurs. There were almost 110% chance that there were dinosaurs. But
110, bro? Dude, don't put that number at that high. We can't definitely say 110%. You can't say that.
There's 110% dinosaurs existed.
No way, bro.
Dinosaurs probably did not exist how we see them. There's definitely not these... There's definitely not
based on
giant,
what? A couple of mineralized
there's definitely not
fossils?
Giant T-Rexes and brontosauruses and those things with the
oh my god,
tail.
I'm sending this to your earth science teacher.
Okay,
you made me... There definitely wasn't like Triceratops. I don't think... And if there was a Triceratops, it was probably not that much bigger than like 2 or 3 raptors.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Nothing. Alligators.
Nothing.
There were definitely animals, and at the least there was
bugs.
Those are technically
bugs.
We call bugs
roaches.
Dinosaur eggs.
What we call dinosaurs are almost anything that are prehistoric. We call prehistoric birds, prehistoric fish.
Ants are
prehistoric
normally
land
referred
animals.
to as dinosaurs because they've been around way longer than us.
Almost any prehistoric animal of any like major species of animal, like bird or mammal. Any of those we call dinosaurs pretty much.
So I guess we need to really define what a dinosaur is. We should have started with that.
Dinosaurs are
we'll know for the next one.
Dinosaurs are prehistoric animals. That's what we've been talking about, are prehistoric animals. And there's evidence
of shit, you definitely lost them.
Of prehistoric animals in like stone and stuff that aren't fossils, imprints of footsteps and such. Also, if there was nothing roaming around the planet...
Wait, footsteps? We have footsteps?
There's all kinds of stuff fossilized.
No way. There's no way. There's dinosaurs. Show me a dinosaur footstep.
It might not have been a footstep, but we have fossilized leaves and stuff. There's
leaves because there's vegetation since the Earth.
And there's definitely...
You can't argue with them in this wrap-up. Come on, man.
There's definitely proof of evolution. So you lost me with
What's that proof?
Animals... What do you think sharks came from? Sharks didn't just exist. Sharks are too small to have competed with the larger animals which existed. I'm not saying that dinosaurs were really tiny like animals now. They were definitely bigger than what we have now. So sharks definitely did not come in the water, like just become in the water and stay there. You lost me.
Google octopuses then.
You lost me.
Those are aliens.
Yeah,
you lost me.
Where'd they evolve from? Where'd they evolve from?
They're aliens, bro.
Yeah, I don't care.
We can do podcasts about that too.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry.
So the final thing is you believe in dinosaurs. You don't think big ones existed.
Well,
that's fair.
So he lost me with his creationism, and he also lost me with some of the more crazier things, like stuff with did the meteor strikes really happen? Are fossils really real? Like fossils are real. They're locked up for a reason.
But we don't know. What do you mean they're locked up?
They're locked up so real scientists
them.
can study them. I'm sorry, but they're not going to throw some like super valuable dinosaur bones in a Smithsonian museum.
So we're going to sorry.
Because then people are just going to rob them and sell them to mad scientists. So like they're locked up for real scientists to study them.
To keep them away from the mad scientists.
They're keeping them away from ET because they're going to eat them all like they never existed.
They'll make them never exist.
Because other people who don't believe in dinosaurs might just burn them. Like,
all right, I'm gonna tag Dominic in this, and he's gonna maybe add some science to this.
So what happened was there were dinosaurs on the planet. There were similar things to what we believe there were. They weren't as big as we say they are, because like you said, they would have problems standing up and running as fast as they were and being as cool as they were.
If their legs were big, dude, they'd run fast because they cover a lot of ground in a step.
A lot less cool than we think they are. But I think there's a lot of evidence. There's more evidence for like sea life
Talking
being
to the
bigger.
top.
And there's definitely also evidence of bugs and prehistoric life. But prehistoric
Gosh,
life...
on the bugs, bro. You can't even argue with
No,
that
I'm
shit.
not going to argue
those are
that.
sap,
I would
like,
say that's a fair
they're
assessment.
amber
I like his assessment.
And there's mammoths, which like kind of disprove your creationism theory.
Yeah.
He's so
Because
smart, dude.
We
Fucking hurts my brain.
agreed upon the fact that mammoths
Mammoths
are
were
an
real.
offshoot of elephants. So basically elephants evolved from mammoths, which means evolution almost has to be somewhat real. So basically, based on what he said and what you said, there is 110% chance of dinosaurs existing. There's 10.5% chance that they were as cool as we thought they were. And they were probably dumb like the animals we have now. And they probably just ate whatever. They weren't as big as they were. And fossils do exist.
All right. With that, Caveman's Conspiracies is out of here. Oh, that's a good ending. Hey Ryan, why is Tyrannosaurus Rex so mad all the time? Because he can't scratch his back.
I was gonna say, he's got those little things, dude. Come on, man.
That's my favorite joke. I tell all the kids that about shrimping. You need to have Tyrannosaurus Rex arms.